Now, had Robin Hood been as peaceful as of old, everything might have ended in smoke. All other such ventures had always done before, but he had fought for years under King Richard, and was changed from what he used to be. It galled his pride to thus flee away before those sent against him, as a chased fox fled from the hounds. So thus it came about at least that Robin Hood and his yeomen met Sir William and the sheriff and their men in the forest, and a bloody fight followed. The first man slain in that fight was the sheriff of Nottingham, for he fell from his horse with an arrow in his brain, ere half a score of staves had been shed. Many a better man than the sheriff kissed the sod that day, but at least Sir William Daly being wounded, and most of his men slain, he withdrew, beaten, and left the forest. But scores of good fellows were left behind him, stretched out all stiff beneath the sweet green broads. But though Robin had beaten off his enemy in a fair fight, all this lay heavily upon his mind, so that he bordered over it until a fever seized upon him. For 3 days it held him, and though he strove to fight it off, he was forced to yield at last. Thus it came that, on the morning of the 4th day, he called Little John to him, and told him that he could not shake the fever from him, and that he would go to his cousin, the prioress of the nunnery near Kirkles in Yorkshire, who was a skilful leech, and he would have her open a vein in his arm and take a little blood from him for the bettering of his health. Then he bade Little John make ready to go also, for he might perchance need aid in his journeying. So Little John and he took their leave of the others, and Robin Hood bade Will Stuteley to be the captain of the band until they should come back. Thus they came by easy stages and slowly journeying until they reached the nunnery of Kirkles. Now Robin had done much to aid his cousin of his, for it was through King Richard over love of him that she had been made prioress of the place. But there is naught in the world so easily forgotten as gratitude. So when the prioress of Kirkles heard how her cousin, the Earl of Huntingdon, had thrown away his earldom and gone back again to Sherwood, she was vexed in the soul, and feared lest her cousinship should bring the king's wrath upon her also. Thus it happened that when Robin came to her mind, and told her how he wished her services as leash, she began plotting ill against him in her mind, thinking that by doing evil to him she might find favour with his enemies. Nevertheless she kept this well to herself, and received Robin with seeming kindness. She led him up the winding stone stair to a room which was just beneath the eaves of a high round tower, but she would not let Little John come with him. So the poor yeoman turned his feet away from the door of the nunnery, and left his master in the hands of the woman. But though he did not come in, neither did he go so far away, for he laid him down in a little glare near by, where he could watch the place that Robin abided, like some great faithful dog turned away from the door where his master had entered. After the woman had gotten Robin Hood to the room beneath the eaves, the prioress sent all of the others away. Then, taking a little cord, she tied it tightly about Robin's arm, as though she were about to bleed him. And so she did bleed him, but the vein she opened was not one of those that lie close and blue beneath the skin, deeper she cut than that, for she opened one of those veins through which the bright red blood runs leaping from the heart. Of this Robin knew not, for though he saw the blood flow, it did not come from enough to make him think that there was anything ill in it. Having done this vile deed, the prioress turned and left her cousin locking the door behind her. All that livelong day the blood ran from Robin Hood's arm, nor could he check it, though he strove in every way to do so. Again and again he called for help, but no help came, for his cousin had betrayed him, and Little John was too far away to hear his voice. So he bled and bled until he felt the strength slipping away from him. Then he arose, tottering and bearing himself up by the palms of his hands against the wall. He reached his budgel horn at last. Thrice he sounded it, but weakly and faint, for his breath was fluttering through sickness and loss of strength. Nevertheless, Little John heard it, where he lay in the glare, and with a heart all sick with dread, he came running and leaping towards the nunnery. Loudly he knocked at the door, and in a loud voice shouted for them to let him in. But the door was of massive oak, strongly barred, and studded with spikes, so they felt safe and bade Little John be gone. Then Little John's heart was made with grief and fear for his master's life. Wildly he looked about him, and his sight fell upon a heavy stone mortar, such as the man could not lift nowadays. Little John took 3 steps forward, and bending his back, heavily the stone mortared up from where he stood deeply rooted. Staggering under the weight, he came forward and hurled it crashing against the door. In burst the door, and away fled the frightened nuns, shrieking at his coming. Then Little John strode in, and never a word said he, but up the winding stone steps he ran till he reached the room wherein his master was. Here he found the door locked also, but putting his shoulders against it, he burst the locks as though they were made of a brittle ice. There he saw his own dear master lying against the grey stone wall, his face all white and drawn, and his head swaying to and fro with weakness. Then, with a great wild cry of laugh and grief and pity, Little John leaped forward and caught Robin Hood in his arms. But he lifted him as a mother lifts a child, and carrying him to bed, laid him tenderly thereon. And now the prioress came in hasting, for she was frightened of what she had done, and dreaded the vengeance of Little John and the others of the band. Then she drenched the blood by cunning bandages, so that it flowed no more. All the while Little John stood grimming by, and after she had done her, sternly bade her to be gone, and she obeyed, pale and trembling. Then, after she had departed, Little John spake cheering words, laughing loudly, and saying that all this was a child's fright, and that no stout yeoman would die at the loss of a few drops of blood. Why, quoth he, give thee a seen night, and thou wilt be roaming the woodlands as boldly as ever. But Robin shook his head, and smiled faintly where he lay. Mine own dear Little John, whispered he, heaven bless thy kind true heart. But, dear friend, we will never roam the woodlands together again. But we will, quoth Little John loudly. I say again, out upon it, who dare says that any more harm shall come upon thee? Am I not by? Let me see who dares touch. Here he stopped of a sudden, for his words choked him. At least he said, in a deep, husky voice, now, if aught of harm befalls thee because of this day's doings, I swear by Saint George, that red cock shall crow over the roof tree of this house, for the hot flames shall lick every crack and canary thereof. As for those women," here he ground his teeth, "it will be an ill day for them." But Robin Hood took Little John's rough, brown fist in his white hands, and chid him softly in his low, weak voice, asking him since what time Little John had thought of doing harm to women ever in vagance. Thus he talked till at least the other promised in a choking voice that no ill should fall upon the place, no matter what happened. Then a silence fell, and Little John sat with Robin Hood's hands in his, gazing out of the open window, ever and anon, swallowing a great lump that came in his throat.